This is Emmitt Hamelin's Man Cave. Sports talk with the legendary Emmitt Hamelin.
Welcome to another episode of the Man Cave. I'm your host, Emmitt Hamelin, and joining us on the show today is our resident analyst, Paul Rice. And we also have a very special guest from the Kahnawake Condors, and my personal vote as Athlete of the Year, Kai Horn. He's a great golfer. And we also have Davis Montour, the very handsome Davis Montour.
That didn't take long for it to get awkward, eh? All right, we'll go with that.
Hey, I'd like to have that intro for myself. I really would. You know, that's coming from me.
I'm gonna put that on my resume.
Today we're gonna be looking at the NHL, the golf PGA. And we're going to be recapping the UFC 158, GSP versus Diaz. We're going to look at the standings. And do we see a change in the standings by the end of the season?
I guess starting the Eastern Conference. So when you look at the standings in the Eastern Conference, two of the teams that really stick out for me, it's New Jersey and Carolina. I mean, you're asking, do you see a change in the standings? So I'm kind of taking the easy way out. I'm taking the 7th and 8th ranked team. But if you look at those two teams, they haven't been playing very well recently. New Jersey's having trouble scoring. Carolina just lost another goaltender, so now they're down to their minor league goaltender in Justin Peters. And I think they're going to have trouble holding on to that 7 and 8 spot, specifically because of the Rangers, the Islanders, and the Capitals. Yes, I said the Islanders and the Capitals. I think those teams have a shot to come in and get that 7th and 8th playoff spot. They have been playing half-decent hockey. The Islanders and the Capitals are starting to turn it around. The Rangers, they have the talent. They just need to actually start playing up to the talent that's on that team. So in the Eastern Conference, I think New Jersey and Carolina will end up out, and two of those three teams I mentioned will end up taking the 7th and 8th spot. So.
When I look at a team at the bottom of the standings, in the East especially, is the Tampa Bay Lightning. They have a high-powered offense with Stamkos, St. Louis, LeCavalier. You know, all those guys. You should mostly think of them as like the Pittsburgh Penguins, the same exact lineup, really, except without a goalie. I think if they want to really make the playoffs, they need to push for a goaltender. And, the talks are around that Ryan Miller, the Buffalo Sabres, is on the move. You know, maybe I think Tampa Bay can make a move for him in order to increase their defense, because offensively they're really talented. They have a high-powered offense, and if they make a move for that goaltender, I think they'll be on top of the standings.
I like the Rangers to put it together a little bit. They're almost there. It just feels like they're one or two small ingredients away from putting it together. I think they're there. They can make a push. They just got to pull it together a little bit. But I do like them. I can see some good things for them.
Yeah, I like the Rangers as well as Buffalo. I don't know. There's something about Buffalo. I feel like they can make a push and make it into the playoffs. And as well as the Rangers, I think the Rangers have elite talent on their team, especially by when they acquired Rick Nash. I thought they'd be the favorites. I thought they'd be doing what Chicago has done. So they're a little bit of a disappointment, but I can see them really getting it together by the end of the season. Do you guys see? Well, we just talked about it, yeah. When do you think Edmonton will actually start winning with their 12-year-olds?
Next season, 2 years down the road. I don't know. If you think they're going to win this year and make the playoffs, they're definitely not the team in the Western Conference that's going to come up and make the playoffs. Again, the two teams I have in the Western Conference that might end up making the playoffs, believe it or not, I think the Columbus Blue Jackets might sneak into the playoffs. If you look at them, they're 7-0-3 in their last 10 games. Essentially, since they fired their GM, they fired their coach. As soon as they did that, their team turned it around, and they've been playing really good hockey. They almost beat the Chicago Blackhawks. Ooh, they almost ended the streak.
That was scary.
Yeah, Emmitt sweated 5 pounds off that night, but I think the Columbus Blue Jackets are going to make the playoffs. That would be a huge shocker for me. And again, look at the two teams that are ranked 7 and 8. The Detroit Red Wings, who are nowhere near the team that they have been in the past, and the San Jose Sharks, who if you take out the first 10 games of the season, the San Jose Sharks wouldn't even be in the playoff picture right now. After that hot start to the season, they've gone ice cold. So I think Detroit and San Jose are going to drop out, and I like Columbus And I can't really pick the next team because there's some real bad teams down there. But I know Columbus. I think Columbus is going to make the playoffs, and you heard it here first.
Edmonton can really make a push for the playoffs. I mean, they're just like the Tampa Bay Lightning, as I said before, with some young stars with a lot of talent offensively. But again, they need that defense. The Ryan Whitney, what is he, $7 million, $5 million a year almost, and he's healthy scratch. 6 defensemen not playing a lot of minutes. So just like them, Edmonton, they need some defense up there because offensively as well, they're really talented. But the team that concern me right now is the San Jose Sharks. They had a really good start to the season with Marleau, Thornton. They had about 10 goals for Marleau in the first 5 games of the season, and all of a sudden they're down at 8th spot. You look at them, they're like the Rangers. They should be at the top of the standings, just like Chicago and Anaheim, fighting for that number 1 seed. But in the West, I really like Edmonton to really make a push for the 8th and final playoff spot.
I'd like to see that, but I gotta say, Edmonton doesn't seem to be playing like they really want it at times. I watched them on the ice; they look confused, a little disinterested at times. They're not even putting the push on like say Tampa Bay has shown a little more flashes of. I don't know, 7 and 8 in the West for me is just up for grabs. It feels like there's a couple of wild card spots out there. The East is a lot more tight, but I think 7 and 8 is really just up for grabs for a handful of teams there.
All right. This is something that I find is kind of mind-boggling. I don't know if you guys saw this coming, but the Washington Capitals, why are they so bad this year? Why? I'm concerned. I like Ovechkin. I like Backstrom. What's wrong?
The issues with the Capitals, it's a couple of things. They had a first-time head coach in Adam Oates come in, and from what I understood, Adam Oates did a lot of we're going to tear the whole thing down and restart from the beginning. So he started with a lot of basic things in training camp. So they had a slow start in a shortened season. So if you look at the beginning of the year, their goaltenders were basically alternating getting blown out. They would start Holtby, he'd get 5 goals. They'd start Neuwirth, he'd get 4 or 5 goals allowed. So they settled down their goaltending now. I think that was one of the big issues early in the season. You have a shortened season, you come in, you're getting down 2-0, 3-0 early in the game. Your team it's going to be hard to come back. They had good special teams. They have a great power play, but scoring 5-on-5 has been a big issue for that team. The problem, I think, has been Ovi had a slow start, and when Ovi's not scoring, they generally don't put up a lot of offense. They don't have good second or third line scoring. So now that they've sort of overcome all that, and Adam Oates he's put in his system, the team's starting to buy in. That's why I picked them to actually make the playoffs and to surge in the second half. If you look at Ovi's numbers, he's putting up more than a point per game now, whereas historically he puts up almost 2 points per game on average. So I think the Ovechkin's going to turn it around. I don't know if he's going to help them on defense, but he's definitely going to score a lot of goals for them. You look at the last game against Winnipeg, where he put up 3 points. They're going to play Winnipeg again tonight. If they sweep them and they get 4 points there, remember that's the same division that they play in. So if they're able to steal a lot of points away from Winnipeg, they can close the gap and probably end up in the 3rd seed by the end of the season. So I think the Caps at the beginning of the year, it was a slow start. Their goaltending was bad. They weren't able to score 5-on-5. They fixed those things. They're starting to get hot, and I think they'll make the playoffs.
If you look at the division, the Southeast, it's really up for grabs. No one's really pulling away. It's not like they're in the Northeast with Montreal. But if you compare the Capitals to this year to last year they had a coach in which he really focused on defense. And you looked at Ovechkin's ice time in the playoffs last year, really about not even close to 15 minutes. Played 13, 15 minutes a game. And, if they focus on defense, because their offense as well as with Ovechkin and Backstrom, they lost Semin, which, in my opinion, wasn't really a star forward, just, a guy on that first line who would play with Ovechkin and Backstrom. But, they need to start focusing more on defense. And their coach as well is a first-time coach. It's not really a powered, a high-known coach, but they need to focus on defense. And their goalie really, it's not really a number 1 goalie in Holtby. They need to, they need to push for a goaltender as well as defensively. They just really have Mike Green on the defense, which is solely offensive, and they need to focus more on defense in the upcoming games in the season.
Yeah, I think they got caught cold. It's a condensed season. There's a feeling out process at the beginning of the year, new coaching approach, different things like that. I think they needed some time to get going, get their feet moving, and it just isn't. So it's make or break time now. It's really put up or shut up for them.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with all of you. I think that's exactly what's going on, and management as well. I don't know. I'm still a little shocked by it.
Is it just me, or does George McPhee have a permanent job with the Washington Capitals? I still remember when this guy traded for Jagger, and that's got to be at least a decade ago. Just aged myself there.
Okay, we're going to move on now to the PGA, golf, if there's a few of you that don't know that. And after that, we're going to recap UFC, so listen in for that. Okay, so we're going to give our top 5 contenders in the majors. Well, my top 5, I know Kai has some, and Paul, if you have any, you can throw them out there. My top 5 contenders in the majors are number 1, Rory McIlroy. He's the number 1 player in the world right now, and you know, he did the equipment change, but I think he could still pull through. Then Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods has always been good. Except for the whole scandal. Brandt Snedeker. Oh, yeah. I think that's how you pronounce his name, Snedeker.
Well, I just want to go back. You guys must have heard now, Tiger Woods, he's officially Facebook official. Did you hear about this? It's Facebook official now.
OMG.
I totally saw it on TNT.
He's not kidding either.
Brandt Snedeker, he's in my opinion, one of the most consistent players in all of golf.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Dustin Johnson is kind of a wild card, in my opinion. I think he could upset a few of these guys. And Luke Donald, you know, I have him up there. I think he's one of the top players in the world.
Yeah, you should start with the real golfers.
You know, my first contender is obviously Tiger Woods. You know, already 2 wins this year. You know, he's, especially in the majors, that's what he focuses on most. And even last year he said he'll trade 5 wins for just 1 major, no matter what. He's focusing on the 18 majors to tie Jack Nicklaus. And I honestly think this year he'll pull through with a big year in the majors. My second contender is a ball striker, a long ball hitter, in Keegan Bradley. You know, he hits the ball really high, which would help him at Augusta National with those fast and really fast greens, as well as the U.S. Open. He hits it really straight. He already won a major at the PGA, so maybe he wants that second major. My third contender is a guy from Europe, in Lee Westwood. You know, he first moved to. He actually announced that he moved to Florida, you know, to focus, you know, on that major championship. He's old right now, but you know, with the ball striking and the irons, and you know, he hits fairways. Every fairway, you know, he'll hit it. The other contender is Justin Rose as well, the ball striker again. You know, I'm really picking ball strikers this year because, you know, at the Masters especially, you know, you need that high ball flight. Hit a lot of greens. You know, if you hit some greens, you know, you're gonna have some birdie attempts there. And my last contender is Dustin Johnson, as he said. You know, he can overpower, of course, with his length off the tee. And you know, he already won this year in Hawaii, and you know, he already lost about 3 major championships coming into the lead. And you know, he's determined to win that major championship this year.
I really think this year is going to be the year of Woods and McIlroy. I'd love to see this sort of rivalry thing play out, but on the course, you know. Both amazing golfers, and I think Woods is back. You know, I think he's lost some of that aggression that he used to have and stuff like that, but I think he's hitting the ball really well. His putting is on. And McIlroy, I think he hit a speed bump. You know, I think it's not going to be a huge deal with him. I think he'll get over it. Maybe, you know, another month or 2 kind of thing, but I think he'll get over it. Snedeker, his putter. I mean, he's a hot putter. He's consistent. He's steady. I think he's going to do some damage this year. It's going to be a good year. But I really want to see Woods and McIlroy at the top of those leaderboards, and I think they can both make a good push for it.
Yeah.
I think the Woods-McIlroy rivalry, everyone was expecting it to happen last year, but I mean, it sort of took Woods a little while to get back into his game, and I think now that he's got he's been a little bit steady in the last couple. He's already got 2 wins. I think he's probably going to double that output for the year, and I think he's a lock for at least 1 major. I think Tiger's a lock for at least 1 major. So McIlroy, I don't know if he had the equipment change. Everybody knows he withdrew from a recent tournament with an alleged toothache.
Yeah, sore tooth.
So, well, I don't know if anybody remembers, but it started. He originally stated, "Oh, I had a toothache," but when he had walked off the course, he said, "Well, mentally, I'm just not there." And then about 20 minutes later, after his publicist sort of shook it out of him, then they put out a statement. But I don't think it's going to be that much of a rivalry this year. I think Woods is going to outplay McIlroy for the duration of the season. It'd be nice to see them compete 1 for 1, but I think it'll be the opposite. Where last year McIlroy was sort of leading the competition and Woods was trailing. And I think this year Woods is going to he's going to have the lead on McIlroy in terms of overall play. And I think the equipment, you're going to get into it a little bit later, but I think the equipment change is going to be a factor for McIlroy. The other ones you're talking about, I like Snedeker. I like Snedeker a lot because I feel he's resilient on the course, and his putting, if he's able to keep that in check, then he'll be able to do it. Keegan Bradley, I like him as a golfer in terms of his length off the tee, but I can't stand anybody who doesn't putt with a traditional putter. So I'm not gonna back Keegan Bradley. Dustin Johnson, he's all right too. The two sleepers, maybe three sleepers. You can't really call Bubba Watson a sleeper because he won a Masters last year. Yeah, his name's Bubba, but I would put him in sort of he won it already. No one expects him to repeat. It's really hard to repeat, but I think he has the capability to do that. If anybody remembers some of the shots he put together down the stretch at the Masters, he can really strike the ball when he's under pressure. And two other guys I like, the Americans, I like Kuchar, and I also like Hunter Mahan as sleepers to win a major this year.
All right. I agree with all your top fives.
Come on, Emmett, stir the pot.
I didn't have the top five.
The only thing,
top two.
Kai didn't have Rory McIlroy. Is there a reason?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Rory's struggling this year. You know, the equipment change, I think, is a big thing. I mean, I changed equipment for, I think last year. You know, I changed clubs, and it took me a while. I mean, you need to get used to that equipment. It's like, I think it's a big thing. You know, you change something, you know, and you have to revamp everything you have out there. You know, with the driver, the irons, you know. It's a big thing, I think, from personal experience. But this year, I don't think he's going to do it. You know, he's caught up in commercials and advertising, you know, all that stuff. I mean, focus on golf, you know. I mean, that's your main thing. Focus on golf, play golf, have fun, and stop, you know, going into these advertising. And even as a girlfriend, you know, I think it's a big thing, you know, having a girlfriend. You know, you spend more time with her instead of the golf course. Just like Tiger Woods. I mean, I think having that girlfriend with Lindsey Vonn, it might slow him down this year.
I mean, I think you're right to a certain degree, but with McIlroy, I think he might take a lesson from Tiger Woods in terms of the obvious. I mean, he had a pretty rough couple of years there, so the roadmap is out there for what not to do. If he keeps his head in the game and just leaves what recently happened behind him, I think he can really recover. I mean, I say a speed bump because he's a young guy, and he's got all the talent in the world. It's just, you know, he needs to keep his mistakes in context. He needs to keep his head in check, and I think this year he can do it. And if Woods is back and if Woods is pushing him, he might just respond.
All right, we're gonna move on to. Do you guys think Rory McIlroy's equipment change is gonna be good or bad in the long run? You know, after coming off such a great season, you know, after the great season he had, is it going to be good or bad? Personally, I think he's not going to be as good as he was last year, but when he does finally get, you know, used to the new equipment and everything, he'll be back on top. But right now he's pulled from a tournament and he's not there right now.
I don't know. It seems like he hasn't been himself since the equipment change. And obviously, when you're the number one ranked player in the world, and then you switch your equipment, you're basically putting a microscope over your game. So everybody's looking at his golf game. In the short term, it's obviously not working. If you're talking about long run this season, like I said earlier, I don't think he's going to be as good as he's been in the past. I think it's going to take some time to adjust. He is still young, but what was the motivation for the equipment change? Does anybody remember? Did he actually say what the motivation was for the equipment change?
I think it was the money.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah. So he switched his equipment because he wanted to get paid more. These are professional golfers. So when you switch your equipment, I've never broken 90. I switch my equipment, I play better. Yeah, he should be able to play at a high level, no matter if he's hitting with Nike, Titleist, TaylorMade. It doesn't matter. They should be able to play at a high level. So this whole equipment change thing, good or bad in the long run, it shouldn't make a difference. It should not make Kai's laughing. Either because I'm making a jerk of myself, I almost swore on your podcast, or because he agrees with me. But it shouldn't make a difference. You're a professional golfer. You should be able to go out there and play if they hand you blades from the 1980s. If you know what I mean. So.
And he had so much success with Titleist. I mean, he won 2 majors by a combined 16 shots, and all of a sudden he changes to Nike. I mean, what did he want to do? He wanted to be Tiger Woods again? You know, there's only one Tiger Woods, and you know, McIlroy should have stick to what he had. stick to his success and play with Titleist, for the duration of his number one world ranking. I mean, he's the number one player in the world. He shouldn't have switched. He shouldn't have downgraded. Look at it now. He's downgrading. All the slumps, the withdrawals. He's not. I don't think he had a top 10 this year so far. And, so far, I don't think he's going to contend this year. And, it's going to take at least a year for him to come back to where he was.
I don't know if it's so much to do with the equipment, though. It matters. If you're driving a Ferrari, if you're driving a Civic, there's a difference, But, I don't know. Is this the equipment or is this just normal? It happens. Your game peaks and valleys, and, I could see coincidence happening there. But, the guy's feeling himself out. He's becoming like a legitimate golf star and things like that. And I think it's more about his character than his equipment. He's got to get his head right.
Yeah, you're seeing him in more ads than you are seeing him on the golf course right now.
Yeah.
And, Nike really sucked him into that one.
Sucked him in with $100 million.
Yes, $100 million.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If you're collecting all that money, you shouldn't. There's no excuse for that. You got sucked into $100 million. You have a new sponsor. That's fine again, but you should still be able to play at a high level. I think, like I said, it's just the equipment switch happened at a time when he hit a natural slump or a natural lull in his development. So people are identifying that as the reason why. But in the long run, he's going to be just fine. He's 24 years old. 23-year-old golfer who's number one ranked in the world. He's not just going to fall off the face of the earth. But this season, I think he's going to regress a little bit. Next year, he'll come back, probably be number one again. And whether or not it was the equipment, we'll probably never know. Only he really knows. Was it the equipment? Is it his wisdom tooth? Is he mentally not there? Is it his girlfriend? Is it all the money? He's too busy spending it to be playing golf? We won't know, but this year, I don't think it's Rory McIlroy's year.
With Tiger Woods, he's got two early season wins. Is that a sign of what's to come this season? Is he back? Essentially, is he back?
I think he's back, but he's not the Tiger he was. I think he's grown up. He's been through what he's been through, and he's getting his game back. He's a different player, but he's got a lot of the same things. But I think we're seeing the mature version, the mid 30s. Getting the last bit of his prime Tiger. I think he's got a good 4 or 5 more years of Tiger golf left in him. But I think he's back in a new version. That's my opinion anyway.
Tiger is definitely back. Earlier in a news conference, he said he doesn't want to be just like 2000 where he was the best. He wants to be better than that. And you can tell he's determined to win those 18 majors. He wants to go more than 18 majors. His main goal is to beat Jack Nicklaus at those 18 majors. He has 14 right now. And, with his success at Augusta, at U.S. Open, I don't think he's there. He needs to hit the ball straight. But, the British and the PGA, he can win, three majors a year if he really wanted to. If he played at his high, at his best. At his best, he's better than anybody. He can win by 10 shots if he wants to. If he putts as well, When he was winning, that putter was there. And, now it seems he doesn't have confidence on the greens. But, 2 wins this year, he's making those putts. He's making those clutch par putts, 5-10 feet where he, keeps the round going. He's hitting fairways. He's hitting greens. He's becoming intimidating again. That was the major thing. Last year they were saying he's not the Tiger he used to was, intimidating, But now, he's back. He can, if he plays at his best, hits great, hits fairways, makes putts, he can win by 10 shots every week if he wants.
Yeah, personally, I think now he's getting to his scary phase because he's not as emotional as he used to be. He doesn't get as excited as he used to. He's more calm and he's more on his game. I think honestly we're seeing the start of a new era of his game, and it's going to be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that calmness. It's that calm, confident Tiger walking off the tee, walking up the fairway. Oh, my shot's in the middle of the fairway. Puts second one on the green, gets up in there, puts. Oh, another birdie, ho hum. That seems to be what's been happening this year with Tiger, and that calmness shows up not only when he's playing well, but when he's not playing well. Last year when he wasn't playing well, we all know how Tiger gets when he stopped playing well, but it seemed that last year it was exasperated even more. He was slamming clubs. I remember he grounded a club in a bunker at one point. He was
spit on a green too.
He spit on a green. That's not the worst thing I've seen happen to a green in the last year or so.
Disrespectful to a green.
What? Okay, side story, no names mentioned, but I was playing in a tournament just this last summer, and we had a guy in our group that was playing, and he missed a really, really easy putt. So he turned around and he did sort of he had his putter and he took a regular swing with the putter, and he must have taken a dinner plate sized thing off the green, off the turf, and it flew about 5 feet away. And I just sort of looked at my playing partner, and we were like, just rolled our eyes and didn't say anything. But spinning on the green is not the worst thing I've ever seen.
There may or may not have been whiskey involved.
There may or may not have been whiskey involved. Tiger, in terms of this season, I said it early. This is about the third time I've said it now, but I think this is going to be one of those years where he could win at least four plus tournaments, at least one major. And you're right, he's not the type of guy who's playing for, well, I want to win a tournament. I want to have a good season. He wants to have a good career. He wants to have the best career. He wants it to be Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. Actually, he wants it to be Tiger Woods, then Jack Nicklaus, which is exactly what Kai had mentioned. So he has a long-term goal in mind. You look at his game's a little more stable now, and it's always been for Tiger, can he stay in the fairway and can he putt? And he's been putting this year. That's been the reason why he's been winning. If you remember some of the long birdie putts he's made, that really gets him going. When he makes a long birdie putt and then he gets rolling on the greens, then he's pretty much unstoppable. I don't know about double digits every time he wins, but I think he's going to double his win output, including at least one major this year.
It looks like we're going to be in store for a great season of golf, and Kai actually has a top 5 Canadians that are emerging in golf. So here you go.
Well, the Canadians that I see that are emerging are, a guy from Saskatchewan and Graham Dillette. He contended last year in the FedEx Cup, almost made it to the Tour Championship. He was contending in the BMW, the third leg of the FedEx Cup there. But, a bad weekend ultimately cost him a chance in the Tour Championship. Another guy is David Hearn, exactly like that. He was in the BMW Championship, had a chance to make it to the Tour Championship, to make it to the top 30 best golfers last year. Unfortunately, he faded away on the weekend as well. Another guy I had is Adam Hadwin. A guy almost won the Canadian Open from playing on the Canadian Tour in 2011. If you almost win a PGA Tour event, you should be a top Canadian. There's not really many Canadians out there. Another guy I found is Brad Frisch. He's from Ontario, I believe. He's contending right now in the Arnold Palmer. He's 7 under par through 2 rounds. Tied for third place. He's a guy that could win tournaments this year. He hits a great ball striker, hits it far, can make a lot of putts. He was top 25 on the web.com tour last year. And another guy that I was looking at is Mike Weir. Is he back? He's a recent Masters champion. That's a question mark for me. Can he do it? But he's getting old. He's like Tiger, old, but a question mark for him is maybe one tournament. Can he set him back? But he's a question mark for me, Mike Weir.
Yeah, Mike. What happened to the Capitals? What happened to Mike Weir? If there was ever a professional athlete that fell off a cliff, that was him. And I loved watching Mike Weir. In the day when he was playing well and everything, and he's got all the skills. Something fell apart mentally for him. I think I don't know what's up, but I'd love to see him come back and at least make a last reappearance before he sort of passed his prime. Well. He's not, to show up again once or twice would be nice.
Wouldn't that be an incredible story if he came back and he won, a major? I don't know.
It's a Cinderella moment if it happens.
Cinderella story.
Yeah.
In terms of the Canadian golfers, I think you said emerging, so I guess Mike Weir would be re-emerging?
Yeah, re-emerging.
I remember watching him in a tournament earlier this year, and he was doing fairly well. He was competing, and then all of a sudden he just had a round of something like +5, +6, and he went from being in the top 20 to now you didn't make the cut, and it happened on a Friday, obviously, so he didn't make the cut. So at least he's back playing golf. I know there was 1-2 years where he wasn't even playing. I think it was injuries that ended up derailing him when he was playing well. So it'd be interesting to see him come back. I'd like to see it. It just reminds me a lot of John Daly. It reminds me a lot of John Daly, where it's like, he's so much fun to watch. We want to see him come back, and he wins the tournament on a sponsor's exemption, and then that gets him a couple more sponsors exemptions, and then he keeps playing. I think if Mike Weir accomplishes that would be success, and if he's able to come back and win a major, that would be obviously amazing for him. I don't know if he'll ever win a major again. I don't know if he'll ever win a golf tournament again, but winning 1 or 2 golf tournaments, I could see that. Winning a major, I don't think Mike Weir will win a major again. So.
Yeah, it would be incredible to see him win a major, But yeah, I can see him winning a tournament, maybe two. All right, well, we're gonna move on to the UFC recap. All right, when we all seen GSP fight. We all seen him dominate opponents. Like, he makes them look like little kids. I personally didn't feel he dominated Nick Diaz as much as he's dominated people in the past. I feel like Diaz still had a fair chance, even though GSP had gotten him to the ground, had hit him a few times. But once they stood up, like, Diaz was able to stuff his takedowns eventually. Towards I think it was the end of the third. I think it was, where GSP just couldn't take him down, and they had to stand up, and that's where Diaz really. I think he shook George, and it looked like a few punches. It looked like GSP was gonna drop and have a glass jaw. What do you guys think? Did you see GSP at his best, or was he dominant in your opinion?
I don't think we saw him at his best, but you got to also context it. You got to figure, like, he won a 50-45 clean sweep decision, and it's not good enough. It's like, how good has he been doing that? He shows a few chinks in the armor, and it's like he looks weak all of a sudden, but he still wins a clean total sweep against a really dangerous opponent. I don't know if you guys saw, but apparently George's trainer was saying that he had an injured Achilles tendon. That was impacting him, and he hurt it in his very last sparring session before the fight week kind of thing. So that might have affected him a little bit. Personally, I thought Nick Diaz did nothing to take advantage of any of the opportunities he had. They were boxing for most of the third and fourth rounds, and that's Diaz's thing. And he made all kinds of statements about what he was going to do, and he just did not take advantage of it. I thought it was a flat fight. Honestly, it was pretty good, but I thought for all the hype and for all the bad blood that was supposed to be there, they didn't really fight like they meant it.
If you look at GSP, he's not really that flashy type of guy who goes for any highlight reel, takedowns. He means strictly business. He wants to win that fight, no matter how boring it is or how highlight reel it is. He does the same thing, those nice little quick jabs that gain points, and those takedowns, and just ground and pound each round. He doesn't want to put on a show for any fans. He wants to get that W each time he goes out there, no matter how boring it is. I said, he just wants that W out there. It seems like no matter who he's fighting for, he's fighting for himself. He's fighting for that win, and that's his business. He wants that W each time he goes out there.
I gotta say though, Condit and Hendricks, that was a killer fight. That looked like it took place in a back alley for the most part. It was awesome. That was the main event for me, like as a viewer kind of thing. But yeah, I gotta just say that. I don't know if you. Yeah, Paul is left for lunch.
But yeah, I agree with you, Davis. The Johnny Hendricks, Carlos Condit fight was. I think it was the main event for everyone. As much as everyone wants to say, GSP and Diaz was the main event, I think everyone wanted to see if Johnny Hendricks was that real competitor, and if he really is, the top guy, the next guy that's gonna fight GSP. And it was the most exciting fight of the night. Like you said, it looked like it took place, in the hood, and it looked like it took place in a back alley, and But getting back to the GSP and Diaz fight, I don't know if you heard Diaz in his interview after the fight, like with Joe Rogan, where he kind of made it sound like GSP had sent a scout there or something to scout him, like he was talking about his roles that he does and all this stuff, and he had mentioned a scout going there, and he kind of made it sound like GSP had sent a scout there to, I don't know if it's cheating or what, but I don't know. What do you guys think of it?
Nick Diaz is like your crazy drunk uncle. Like he just says a lot of stuff, and sometimes like the words actually even make sense. I don't know. Like I don't know if anyone expected anything different from the fight. GSP has like a script now dating back to I don't know how many fights. There's a reason why he has 6 or 7 straight decisions, 5-rounders, and you can almost interchange opponents, back to Thiago Alves, Dan Hardy. I mean, these were matches that were one and the same. And I mean, GSP does his homework. I mean, he's like a robot, and that's what he does. So, I don't know, Diaz and the things he says half the time. Sometimes he has a point, but most of the time he's like a total conspiracy theorist about everything.
Diaz is just all talk. He just talks trash all the time. It seems like he doesn't back it up. And fighting against a guy like GSP, you should have stopped talking. Focus on that fight. No matter how good GSP was or not, talking trash all the time, that's going to backfire on you, I thought.
Well, I mean, especially because you say something like that after you lost the fight. Mm-hmm. So you lost the fight, and now he spied on me, he's scouting me. Of course he was scouting you. But you think the fights aren't televised? You don't think your fights are on videotape? People can see, they know what you're going to do. So it's kind of like complaining, the Patriots, they recorded our practices. Of course they did. That happens all the time. This is professional sports. These people are getting paid lots of money to win games, to win fights. So yes, those types of things are going to happen. And I think it's one of those unwritten rules. You're not supposed to talk about it. You're not supposed to accuse the other team of it, especially after you lost the fight. And again, I'm not big on UFC. I'm a lover, not a fighter. But I do remember last week. Davis just fell out of his chair. I think he just threw up on himself after that one. But I said it last week. Diaz does it on purpose. That shit he said. I said it last week. Diaz does it on purpose to try to get under the skin of the fan. He wants to play the bad guy. He tries to get under the skin of the other fighters. But in this case, I think in that specific example you gave, it's sour grapes. There's no benefit to doing it. You're not gonna change anything. You're not gonna change the result of the fight. So.
Yeah, exactly.
And I got to say, I mean, I wonder how good his prescription is. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, people have been beating Nick Diaz the same way since, because he was in the UFC years ago. I mean, I remember seeing him knock out Robbie Lawler, in 2003.
I think he was there before GSP.
He was there before GSP. Yeah. I mean, he's been in the fight game a long time. I think he started when he was 19 professionally. But once a good wrestler got a hold of him way back, it's been the exact same way. He loses every time. I mean, good for him. He doesn't get knocked out. He doesn't get submitted, and that's all well and good. But you put him up against a good wrestler, it's like his kryptonite every single time for 8 years. So for him to say these things, it's like, I think personally he's got a good coaching team behind him, but terrible people behind him that are just feeding him stuff like we've seen in boxing since way back in the day, that they're just pumping him up and telling him that he doesn't have to change and adapt, that it's everybody else's fault. They're not fighting the right fight for him. He blamed Carlos Condit for not standing still and letting him punch him. I mean,
oh my God,
it's your fault you beat me. I don't know with this guy. I mean, he's fascinating. He's fun for the sport and stuff, but at some point he just sounds like a whiny teenager,
Yeah, and I'm also during his I guess accusation of GSP sending a scout there, or whatever he did say, he mentioned retirement, which I think he's just a sore loser at this point. But maybe it is time for him to retire. He's had 30 plus fights. To me, I don't look at him as a top contender. I never really did. Even when he did fight Condit, and I don't think he was really deserving of this fight as well. I think it was just the hype of the fight, and George wanted the fight, but everyone hyped it up like it was gonna be this bad blood fight, and it really wasn't. And for him to consider retirement. Actually, he said he was gonna retire, and then I was on Facebook, and the UFC had posted another interview with him. I don't know what it was called. I don't know. It was some kind of another UFC online interview, and he said he wasn't sure about retiring now. He said the only way he wouldn't retire or something like this. He said if they would give him another fight with GSP, he wants a rematch because he says he thinks he can beat George. What do you guys think about all this retirement talk?
I don't know. He also said he's never paid a dime in taxes in his life at the post-fight press conference, so he really better not retire. I don't know of another professional athlete that publicly announces to the media that they've never paid a dime in taxes. It might be a thing, but he also, like, he retires every time he loses, you know, and I mean, I think you're 100% right. He's not a top contender. He's a really good fighter, and he'll give a lot of guys trouble, but I don't know, throw him in a few more exciting fights if he wants them, and that's it. You know, make some money off his skills, and that's it, because he's not winning a title. Not while anybody that knows how to wrestle is around. You know, that's just my opinion.
You know, he's not one of those top-notch fighters out there, you know. He's not like a GSP. He's not like an Anderson Silva. You know, he's one of those average fighters right now. You know, as you said, he's been in UFC for a long time. You know, it seems like each year he's getting down, you know, lower and lower. I mean, I think he should retire, obviously, honestly, because, you know, after that fight against GSP, he may have not been dominated, but it seemed like he had no chance to win. You know, it seemed GSP knew his weakness. It seems like Diaz does not know how to, you know, capitalize on anybody's weaknesses. You know, he doesn't seem that aggression, you know, the talking. If he fights like he talks, you know, then I think he can do something. But, you know, when he fights a guy like GSP, I don't think he has any chance against anyone else.
No, and you look at the rest of the welterweight division, it's all wrestlers. It's all, like, you know, all-American wrestlers, Johnny Hendricks, all this stuff. And, you know, he doesn't stand a chance. I don't think so.
Moving on now to, well, it's going to be in the UFC, but the co-main event, Johnny Hendricks versus Carlos Condit. Hendricks looked like a top contender. How good do you think he is?
Personally, I think he's incredible. I mean, you know, even you look at his beard, you know, he looks scary. You know, that makes him scary looking, you know, and he's one of those guys that seems like, you know what, I'm going to beat you no matter what. I don't care how big you are, how small you are. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to try and kill you. You know, that's what it seems like his mentality was. It seems like no matter who you are, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to give it my all no matter what. I'm going to die trying.
Yeah, that left hand is scary, man. I mean, Carlos Condit's got a head of steel because he took a lot of big shots. But I mean, I think Hendricks beats 9 out of 10 top guys on any night. He's awesome, but I don't think he beats GSP. I think it's a close fight and it's a scary fight for St. Pierre. But St. Pierre's seen big strikers before, and Johnny Hendricks hasn't really had someone on the aggressive wrestling with him. You know, him and Josh Koscheck fought last year or whatever, and it was a boxing match. You know, yeah. So I don't think anyone's tested him out in that way. Hendricks comes forward really aggressive and everything, and that's like a meal for George St. Pierre. He's going to duck under those punches and take him down, no matter how good a wrestler he is. The
only thing with Hendricks is, well, actually, when they do fight, I'm actually afraid for George. I think he's not going to be able to avoid, you know, Hendricks' beard.
Fear the beard.
From what I hear, there, you know, he doesn't have a chin. It's just another fist that's under that beard. That's why he doesn't cut it. So, I mean, George better watch out, because that's scary. Like, he could be ducking under a punch, and then there's another one coming from the beard.
A beard uppercut.
Yeah, the beard uppercut could clearly take George down. Like, well, Davis just talked about it. He doesn't think Johnny Hendricks is the guy, but Kai, Paul, do you think Johnny Hendricks is the guy that finally does beat GSP and, you know, end him?
I don't know if anyone's noticed, but I haven't been talking a lot about UFC. That's why I brought Davis along. But all I got to say is last week I did pick both of the fights correctly, even though I don't know much about UFC. And the other thing I wanted to mention is just, it seems like every time GSP fights somebody new, this thing comes up: is he going to be the latest? Is he going to be the latest? Everyone always doubts him. They doubted him. believe he got hurt recently, GSP, a couple of years ago. They doubted him off the injury. The doubt always seems to be at its highest as the fights start to creep up, and every fight, as Davis put, is the same. Every fight is the same. So unless somebody figures out a way to beat the system that he puts in place, I don't know if Hendricks is the guy. You alluded to the fact that he may have the ability to knock him out with that beard punch. But I think that's going to have to be the only way. Someone's just going to have to break the cycle of how GSP has been winning, and I think a guy who can knock him out is going to be the one to do it. But I don't know enough about UFC to call this guy to be the one to do it. So.
Don't get me wrong, Hendricks is he's an awesome fighter. He's a guy that, probably 1 out of 10 times could get GSP. But GSP, he seems like he's the master of fighting. He knows what to do. He goes for their weaknesses and he plays to his strengths. No matter what, you'll see him every time. He'll go for those takedowns and he'll keep them down. He's too strong, to lose a match. It seems like he doesn't lose, no matter what. He seemed like the New England Patriots back in 2007. It seems like they're going to win, but, maybe they'll beat the New York Giants. Maybe Hendricks will beat that Giants team. Finally, one upset maybe. It could be, in my opinion, Hendricks is the guy that could do it, with his high-powered offense and, that striking ability, and that mentality of, I'm going to kill you no matter what.
Just before we get Davis's take on that, Kai, you mentioned the New England Patriots. So in case anybody cares, the NFL just eliminated the tuck rule. They eliminated the tuck rule 10 years too late.
The poor Raiders fans have to really deal with this. It's tough. Paul's a Raider fan. If you weren't listening in last week, poor Paul, and Harley couldn't make it today. But I know Harley's jumping for joy, but. That's not going to happen again. The Raiders, I don't think, are going to get close like that again. Also, the leading with the crown got eliminated as well, which I don't like. All right, moving on. We're starting a new discussion towards the end of every show now. We're going to discuss different topics. I'm going to give, like a top 4, or like a versus type of thing. This week, the first one is, what is the greatest streak in sports? I have 4 right here. I'll read them to you right now. First is the 1972 Miami Dolphins, their undefeated streak. Second, the Blackhawks, their 24-game point streak. I know some would argue that Philadelphia has the record, and some people would argue that theirs is better than Chicago's, but one of the former Philadelphia Flyers players has said that there were a lot of really bad teams back then, and he said he thinks this one is a lot better. Then there's the Miami Heat, their current win streak. I don't even know what it's at now. It's what is it, a year? I'm just kidding. It's not really. And then there's the University of Connecticut women's basketball team. They won 90 straight games in a number of years, So what do you guys think? Personally, I think the women's basketball team winning 90 straight games is the best streak. I mean, I know it is women's basketball, but they do have a lot of competition. It's not, don't get too caught
What do you
up.
mean by that?
Well, because some people don't give women in sports that much credit, and I feel like that in this, winning 90 straight games is a big accomplishment for any sport. What do you guys think?
I'll base this one on the league that's toughest to win, and I think it's the NFL. The NFL, it seems every week you can have anybody can win out there. And when I look at it, I see the 72 Dolphins, undefeated streak. The reason why I picked them probably over the Patriots is because they ended up winning the whole Super Bowl. They won the regular season and everything else. And, the NFL nowadays, it seems like pick out of a hat who's going to win each week almost, whether you're on the road or at home. And when I see them won every single game out there, it seems like they were the team to beat. It seems like they were number one, best team, I think, ever.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of sheer volume, the women's basketball team, 90 games that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's just steamrolling the competition left and right. On a sentimental level, I got to say the Blackhawks streak this year was pretty awesome to watch.
Sir.
Condensed season, it's basically playoff hockey all season, and that was pretty cool to see. I mean, I was pretty impressed by that. I also didn't expect it. I thought they're a rock-solid team, but, I thought they would give a few away, and they fought tooth and nail for every point.
Yeah, they played top teams, and they beat top teams. Unfortunately, they lost to Anaheim last night, or 2 nights ago. And, it is a really awesome streak, and it doesn't help. It helps that me and Davis are Chicago Blackhawks fans, so that could have swayed Davis's decision a little bit. Paul, what's your pick?
That women's basketball 90 straight games, it's really tempting. But it's really tempting to go there. But again, I don't watch a lot of women's. I don't watch a lot of women's basketball. But I'm going to assume that there was a big talent discrepancy during that 90 straight games. And in college, if you remember, there's a lot of smaller schools that they don't have the recruiting power. So I'm going to discount that one based on that. The Miami Heat and the Blackhawks, they're more in sort of today's sports. The Heat I'm going to discount because they have too many superstars. That if you have LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, you should have a 20-game winning streak every season. No? Okay.
You should win.
Yeah, and the Blackhawks, it's a good win streak. You looked at... They got a little bit lucky here and there. They forced a lot of overtimes with 2 minutes left in the game, so that's a good resilient streak. I'm going to have to go with the 72 Dolphins. There's a reason why it happened in 72. Their undefeated streak. We're now 40 years later. There's still no team that's... there's the Patriots that came close. I don't know if you heard that, but the producer of this show, his favorite team is the Dolphins. So the 72 Dolphins, I'm going to have to go with them. And the reason is you look at the NFL, any given week, any team can win. You look at some of the big upsets that happen. So the 72 Dolphins, for sure, for me, is the greatest winning streak ever in sports. The most astounding streak ever is the 2008 Detroit Lions, who've managed to not win a game. I don't know how they... I don't know how that's possible.
I don't know how they did that. They had Megatron on their team, and they still managed to lose every game.
Every game. It would have been interesting, though, if the Dolphins owned the undefeated streak, and then if you remember, they almost didn't win a game too. They were about 13 weeks into the season, and right near the end of the game, I think it was Camarillo, who's right now he's unemployed in the NFL.
Overtime.
Yeah, he caught a 70-yard touchdown in overtime, and all the fans stormed onto the field, and we're 1-15. So I think it would have been really interesting if the Dolphins had an undefeated streak and a winless streak. That would have been cool to see.
It would have been cool because the week before that they had played New England, and that was the same season. New England had went undefeated. Wouldn't that have been something if Miami had ended their losing streak by beating New England and ending their winning streak? That would have shocked me, and that would have been nice to think of.
No, I agree, but if that had even come close to happening, the NFL would have made up a rule to stop it.
They would have.
No running fast.
No, there's no resentment here.
All right. Well, there you have it. There's our take on the greatest streak in sports, and we actually have this special questions for the guest, our special guest, greatest athlete in Kahnawake, Kai Horn.
Yeah.
So we're gonna give you random questions. Davis, I could actually ask you these too if you want. And because Paul is a regular on here, so
Paul is a regular.
So these are our guests.
Yes, I get plenty of fiber.
So we're gonna give you these questions. Answer as fast as you can, or if you want to take it slow, it's up to you. Favorite golfer?
Tiger Woods.
Favorite golf equipment?
Nike.
Favorite sport?
Golf.
Twitter or Facebook?
Twitter.
Facebook. Favorite superhero? Jeez, I'm all caught up in Facebook. I'm excited.
Batman.
Can you believe I can't believe it's not butter is in fact actually not actually butter?
I don't understand that one at all.
I'll give you the paper.
Can you believe I can't believe it's not butter? Isn't in fact it's not butter.
Can you believe it?
I don't think so. No.
World peace or Bill Gates money?
Bill Gates.
Your favorite animal?
A tiger.
What is your idea of a Mohawk patin?
Oh, Fadis. Whatever's at Fadis, that patin is a Mohawk patin. Especially it's open right now.
Oh, yeah. Look. There we go. We should get sponsored by Fadis. There's a free patin for you, Kai. All right. That's your 10 questions.
Okay.
We're going to do that after, well, whenever we have a guest on. Hopefully we can have Kai back soon. It's actually, Davis is going to do this, too.
My go? Okay.
Yeah. So, best dressed golfer.
John Daly.
Favorite golfer.
Tiger Woods.
Favorite golf equipment.
Titleist.
Favorite sport.
MMA.
I don't know if this one applies to you. Twitter or Facebook? Do you have either?
Email. No.
MSN Messenger.
Twitter.
Your favorite superhero.
Superhero? Wonder Woman.
Can you believe? I can't believe it's not butter. Is in fact not actually butter.
You can use it as motor oil, but
Can
yeah,
you
you
can
get
use
ants all over your car. But I believe. I'm a believer.
world peace or Bill Gates money?
Bill Gates money.
Your favorite animal?
Grasshopper.
Oh wow! Wow, that's the last thing I'd expect. What is your idea of a Mohawk patin?
A poutine on a bacon pizza.
Oh my god, that actually sounds pretty delicious right now.
Try it, but get a side of gravy.
Oh my gosh! Wow, amazing! All right, there you have it. Great episode of The Man Cave. That does it for another episode of The Man Cave. Thank you guys for coming on to the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on the show, Emmett. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Paul.
Well, I'm going to be here next week. So.
Yeah,
Clearly, I didn't get to answer the questions. I don't get to say goodbye. It's fine. It's okay.
Paul, do you want to do a question?
No,
questions
it's
right
fine.
now? No? All right.
You've ruined it.
It's actually every week we're gonna have different sets of questions. But I added the golf ones in because Davis and Kai were coming onto this show.
There you go. Good idea.
Listen in next week when we focus on the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL. We're going to be doing kind of like a spotlight onto each team leading up to the NFL draft. So listen in. After that, we'll go from in the draft order 1 to 32, Kansas City Chiefs, and then after that will be Jacksonville and so on.
Yeah, the Chiefs have made a lot of good moves, and they got the number 1 pick, so that should be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, it will. We'll also be talking about the UFC's announcement that Ronda Rousey will be, one of the coaches on The Ultimate Fighter. That should be interesting, and she'll actually be going against. The next coach will be picked by the upcoming women's fight. So that'll be interesting. And we'll be talking about much more. I'm the legendary Emmitt Hamelin. See you next week.
This has been Emmitt Hamelin's Man Cave, starring the legendary Emmitt Hamelin. Follow Emmitt on Twitter at TheEmmitt34 or on Facebook. This has been a production of Emmitt's Legendary Sports Nation.